Hey, what's up, Dynasty owners? I'm Matt the Jerk here with your contract speculation and breakdown video. So I've been doing this video since the beginning of the year, as most of you know. What we're going to be doing this week is a little different. Let me break it down for you. So we've gone through exactly half the NFL teams. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we're 16 teams in and we have 16 more to go. So right in the middle. And as I mentioned in my last couple of articles, we're starting to get to the point where the speculation isn't as big of a deal. We're not speculating on as many free agents. Most of the free agents have signed. There's a few stragglers out there, Todd Gurley probably being one of the biggest. But, there's not much to speculate on. So a lot of what I've been doing lately and will continue to do is going to be based on breakdown, players, teams. And then one thing I want to do in this series for this month was blind comparisons. That's my favorite thing to write about. That was actually the first article I ever wrote for Dynasty Owner, was a blind comparison article. So we're going to get into that in just a second. First off, we got some news, a little bit of news. I think three things that we need to get to. First off is that Brian Hill was released. We know that. He was released by the Falcons, and he actually recently signed with the Titans. So I don't have the full details. They haven't been released to the public on what that money is going to look like. It's going to be cheap. We know that. It's not going to be a big contract. But we do know that he will be a Titan. Not too much dynasty implication for this one. He's owned in less than 25% of dynasty owner leagues. At best, he's going to be the backup to Derrick Henry. At worst, he's going to be third or fourth string on that team. So I wouldn't put too much stock into it. Even if Henry gets injured, I would expect a running back by committee. He's not going to be the full workload guy. I think he's shown over his career that he's not able to handle an entire year's worth of workload. So just a speculative ad at this point. In case of injury, he might have a little bit of value. Up next, this was kind of a big one. I wouldn't say it's a shocker, but kind of a big one for where this guy started his career, and it's Kerryon Johnson. He was waived by the Lions on May 5th. It's a very disappointing ending to his career with Detroit. He was the 2018 second-round pick by the Lions, and I think a lot of people did, that he had the talent to take over that backfield in a couple of years, and it just didn't happen. He's being released. He was unable to surpass 1,000 yards in any season, which is very disappointing. And he averaged only 584 yards per season. So hold him until he signs. I believe he already did sign. I'll have to update you guys in the article when that releases. But I believe he already did sign. I'll update where he signed with and what the money on that's going to look like. But, yeah, hold on to him definitely until we find out. If it's a bad spot he lands in, then you can cut him free, but he'll still be cheap for one more year. So finally, we have Teddy Bridgewater. He was traded to Denver. That's old news, but his money finally came through, what he's going to be making. His contract's going to look like 1 year, right at $11.5 million. Pretty fair value for Teddy, at least in real money. He's coming to the Broncos, who they're going to be looking for somebody to at least rival Drew Lock, not necessarily take over the job, but somebody to kind of light a fire under him and give him some competition. I truly believe that competition breeds better players. So we'll see. If Teddy does end up taking over the quarterback position sooner than later, it'll be a steal of a deal, 11.5 with all the weapons he has around him. And he's an average quarterback, average to above average. So I think his contract can provide value if he does take over Lock's spot. So let's jump right into our blind comparison. We're going to have one for today. And this is the New York Jets article. So this will be all featured around one New York Jets player. And like I said, for these 4 weeks, I'm gonna try to do these for the next for the entire AFC West or East. I'm sorry. So the entire AFC East, I'm gonna try to do one blind comparison, at least maybe a couple. And let me screen share with you guys so you can see this a little bit better. I'll try not to scroll down too far and give away any important information. So for these comparisons, I'm going to do a little bit different than I have in the past. In the past, what I would do is I would give you some stats for two players, and you'd have to decide which player you liked. Then I'd release a little bit more information as I went. For this one, I'm going to rely a little bit more on your memory. I'm going to give you a player's stats, and then for the opposite player, player B, I'm going to give you a player's name. And so you have to kind of remember, how did he play last year? How's he played the past couple of years? And how do those compare to these, seemingly random stats that I'm giving you? So you'll get it. Let's just jump right into it. The question, as always, is who would you rather own in Dynasty Owner? So we have Alpha, player A. He's 27 years old, and here's 2020 stats. 14.6 fantasy points per game. If he would have played an entire 16-game season, he would have had 232.8 fantasy points. He had 78 receptions, 932 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns, and that's a 16 game season pace. So he didn't have that because he missed 4 games, but that would have been his pace. That was what he was averaging if he'd played all games. And the salary is between $8 and $10 million per year. So compare that with Corey Davis. Corey Davis is obviously our New York Jet. He was picked up by the Jets in the offseason. So he's our Jet that we're going to be talking about. What do you think? Do you think Corey Davis outperformed those stats? Underperformed? We know what Davis is making this year, if you can remember. It's $12.5 million, so a little bit more than player A. So let's break it down a little bit. Like I said, you have to decide how good Corey was last year. Did he outperform Alpha? And the answer is yes. Believe it or not. I don't know if it's hard to believe. Davis had a pretty good season, but these are his stats for 2020. He's 26 years old, 15.8 fantasy points per game. That would have been good for 253.9 for a 16-game season. 87 receptions, 1,312 yards, 7 touchdowns in a 16-game season, and he also missed 4 games. So he had a better season, and he was on pace to have a much better season than player A. And as I said, his salary is $12.5 million per year. So it's impressive. What's even more impressive is the fact that Corey Davis was 16 yards short from 1,000 receiving yards, despite missing 4 games. So he almost got 1,000 yards with 4 less games than what he should have had, if he hadn't been injured. But you're going to say, yeah, well, now he's playing for Jets. And that's a fair point. I guess you can't just say that. You got to back up your reasoning if you say he's playing for the Jets. But I know where you're going if you say that. I would ask you what your concerns are with him playing for the Jets, and I have mine as well. Here's my top 3, and I listed them here. 1, he's on a new team. That's always, some sort of a learning curve when a player goes to any team, especially as I would call the Jets a bad team, at least last year, specifically a team that has low volume. So we know that the Jets don't pass very, very much. They were in the bottom of the league in passing. So maybe less targets for Corey Davis. Number 2, he's a late breakout wide receiver on a second contract, and he's 26 years old. That is the truth. He's older. He was definitely a late breakout. Take from that what you will. He won't have as long a career as some of these, younger breakout players like Juju or like Justin Jefferson. But as far as what he's doing right now, he's putting up good numbers. And number 3, he's playing for the New York Jets. And I think that's probably what most people's point would be. They're the team that somehow was able to screw up tanking last year. Anyway, I don't want to beat up on Davis or the Jets, but all 3 of these points are valid. They're all facts. Now let me tell you why I don't care about any of those when it comes to this, and I'll go through them one by one. First, on the first point, it's true. Davis, he has a new home. He's playing for the Jets, and it happens to be on a team that was 29th in passing attempts in 2020. But what's also true is that Davis is leaving the team who was 30th in pass attempts in 2020. So I don't know if that surprises you or not. Titans are a low-volume passing team as well. So they're right, neck and neck, back-to-back, the Jets and the Titans. Do I think he's going to have more targets or receptions? Probably not. But that being said, there's a chance. With how low volume the Titans passed last year, the Jets definitely have a chance to give the ball to Davis more. I know that they drafted a couple of wide receivers, and they signed a few through free agency. So we'll see. The Jets actually had 14 more passing attempts than the Titans in 2020. They were no doubt more valuable passing attempts because you got Tannehill, who's obviously better than Darnold at this point in his career at least. But the volume was a little bit more for the Titans. Second, it's true that he's a late breakout receiver, but so is Alpha. I haven't told you who Alpha is yet, but Alpha was a late breakout receiver in his career. And it's actually worth noting that Alpha is 19 months older than Davis. So if you're choosing Alpha over Davis, you're going to have a year and a half, potentially less of a career, or at least, probably a year closer to that drop-off for wide receivers. And finally, most importantly, yes, Davis is playing for the Jets, as I've mentioned. But here's the twist, and this is something I didn't tell you at the beginning, is that Alpha is also. So you can probably guess who it is now. Alpha is Corey Davis' teammate, Jamison Crowder. And here's how the final stats play out, and I'm going to throw this back up here so you can see it. Here's how the final stats play out for a 16-game season if they'd played all 16 games. And you can read right there. I'm not going to go through all of them. But you can see that Crowder's older, less points per game in 2020, less receptions, less yards, more touchdowns, one more touchdown for 16 games. And then the salary is $3 million less. So I would be willing to guess that the majority of you, I don't know. It's tough. It's probably split pretty good. I would have probably taken Corey Davis, just looking at those numbers without, remembering off the top of my head what Corey did. But I wouldn't blame if you took Alpha. I mean, those are solid numbers, for this comparison. A $3 million discount is not negligible. So we know that Jamison Crowder's got $3 million less. That's a lot of money, especially in terms of, our salary cap and Dynasty Owner. But I'm still taking Davis. I'll pay up to get the more talented, the younger receiver. Yes, he's new. He doesn't know the playbook probably as well, but he's a smart guy. He'll pick up on it. And for what it's worth, Dynasty ownership agrees with me. Crowder is owned in 60% of leagues, while Davis is only owned in 82%. So take from that what you will. Like I said, we got a few more receivers added through the draft and free agency. It's going to be tough to see how that shakes up. I think Harry Davis will be the number one for sure, at least to start the season. So hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what you think. This is kind of a fun little new way to do some contract, breakdowns and some just some new things that I've been trying here. So let me know if you like it. We're going to try to do the same thing next week. I haven't decided which team we're going to do, but I'll try to do the same thing where I give you some stats and then a player, and then you got to kind of decide which side you would like better. As always, thank you for reading. I would suggest that you probably, if you're watching this video, then you probably haven't read the article or vice versa, but I would suggest that you probably start watching the videos first. I think the videos go a little bit more into it, and then you can go back and read the articles that don't have all the nitty gritty info. So start seeing the videos first if they come out. If the articles come out first, then go ahead and read those, and the videos will give you a little more personal touch. That's what I'm trying to do with these. So everyone, I hope you have a good week, and take care and be